So the Bitcoin halving is finally upon us, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at what impacts the halving has had on previous cycles, and also use past data to try and estimate where we might end this cycle and what price point we may reach by the time we get there. So for those of you who aren't familiar what the Bitcoin halving is, a very quick explanation is simply every 10 minutes roughly a Bitcoin block is mined on the blockchain, and a reward for the miner who mines that Bitcoin block is rewarded with fresh new Bitcoin. And essentially the halving is a reduction in that reward at approximately every 4 years. So as you can see on the screen there, the first halving date was the inception of Bitcoin, where every Bitcoin block that was mined produced 50 Bitcoin in terms of fresh supply rewarded to that miner. Then on November 28th, 2012, that was reduced to 25 Bitcoin. 9th July 2016 at 12.5 Bitcoin, 11th of May 2020, which was the most recent halving, down to 6.25 Bitcoin. And as you saw from the screen earlier, the countdown, in about 11 hours time from recording this, the reward will go down from 6.25 Bitcoin for every block mined down to 3.125 Bitcoin. So as you can imagine, that is going to have a huge impact on the supply and demand of Bitcoin. And what we've seen in the past is that supply has reduced, demand has increased, and that has led to an exponential growth in the price of Bitcoin. So let's go take a look at the charts at what has happened in previous cycles. So the chart on the screen may look a little bit zoomed out and complicated with a lot of information. However, allow me to simplify it. So the orange lines that I've got drawn on obviously dictate the halving, the previous dates, including today's. And then the other bars have information and data that I believe we can use to show patterns and use that to try and estimate where we might end up in this cycle in terms of a rough ending date and also a price point that we may reach. So let's go back all the way to the beginning of November 2012, which was technically the second Bitcoin halving, but the first real one in terms of a reduction in the supply. So this is the date back here, and the price, if we just consult Google, as you can see, was $12.45. It's too far back from where the chart started, but as you can see, about $12.45 up to that peak, a 9,300% increase, which was a pretty insane, from $12, can you believe it, all the way up to $1,000. Then we had the next halving in 2016. So from that price point of about $650 all the way up to $20,000, which was a 2,800% increase. Then the halving in May 2020, where price was about $9,000, call it $10,000, up to the most recent cycle high of $69,000, which was a 609% increase. So as you can see, post halving, the price of Bitcoin does extremely well. So the other thing that I want to point out in terms of a pattern or patterns, so you can see these very similar time periods that have lapsed in between halvings and cycle peak. So if we go from the halving to the cycle peak, so from the first one in 2012 to 2013, that's 52 weeks. From the halving of 2016 to the 2017 peak, that was 74 weeks. And from the halving of 2020 to the cycle peak of 2021, that was 78 weeks. So very similar there, particularly the last two cycles. And then again, if we also take a look at the peak to the next cycle halving, so from the peak of 2013 to the cycle halving of 2016, you had 135 weeks. From the cycle top of 2017 to 2020 halving, you had 126 weeks. And then from the cycle peak of 2021 to today's halving, you have 127 weeks. So that's mainly just to show you how well Bitcoin tends to respect patterns from the past and going into the future. So if we were to take this information that we've got and also just add, so we started with a 9,300% increase back in 2012, 2,800% in 2016, and then 600% in 2020. So obviously diminishing returns. So if we take the time bar, so if we go from today's halving and then go 74 weeks into the future, that takes us to around September 2025. And then if we take a conservative 150% increase, as I say, from 9,000 down to 3,000, down to 600%, if we then just say 150% from today's price, 150% increase would equal about 150 to 160,000 Bitcoin. And as I say, in 74 weeks should be about September, October time. Now, there are obviously factors to consider. One is that this is a unique cycle for a couple of reasons. One is that we've never previously broken the previous all-time high of the cycle before. So as you can see, the price of Bitcoin never breached the previous cycle's all-time high before the halving. We have done that in this cycle. If we just zoom into the charts, we of course broke $69,000 a few weeks ago, back in the beginning or the early March. The other factor we've got to consider is the Bitcoin ETFs increasing the demand for Bitcoin. So if we take a look at this article here from the Cointelegraph, Bitcoin ETFs are sucking up 10 times more Bitcoin than miners can produce. And this was back in February as well. So spot Bitcoin ETF inflows have outpaced the amount of production from miners by over 10 times in the past 2 trading days. So if you consider that the supply of Bitcoin is going to halve literally from midnight tonight, that is going to create a huge supply and demand issue that we could see impact the price massively. So as we've seen from previous cycles, supply drops, demand increases, which then causes the price to go up, which then causes more demand, which then causes more the price to continue to rise. So we could be in for a very turbulent next few months. And as we've seen from previous halvings as well, the price tends to appreciate very quickly after the halving. If we just go back to the previous 2 halvings again, so if we take a look at the halving back in 2020, you can see the halving was here. It only took about about 6 to 8 weeks before things really took off. If we then take a look at the cycle back in 2016, you can see again, we actually dropped quite significantly the 4 weeks following the halving. So we dropped about 16% in the 4 weeks following the halving before then going on that monster run. So is that what we're going to see in this cycle that we're currently in? Are we going to see a bit of a drop off over the next couple of weeks, and then towards middle of the summer we are then going to see that big increase and potentially run up to that price point of around $150,000, $160,000? And will the cycle end all the way out in September, October 2025, or will we see a quicker finish? Are we going to see a quicker, faster parabolic move that ends sometime towards the end of this year? We'll have to wait and see. Of course, everything in this video is just an estimation. It's certainly not financial advice. Of course, never go broke taking profits. Have that taking profit plan in your mind and don't get too greedy. So hope you enjoyed the video. We currently have a promotion on at the moment, 50% off for the Bitcoin halving for our annual premium membership. So if you want to learn more, go check out the website learningcrypto.co.uk. Hope you have a good day. Hope you have a good weekend. And of course, happy halving day. And I'll see you on the next video.